Good morning and welcome back to Log Cabin Firewood. So my name's Jack, and you guys had questions about the central boiler classic edge that we installed at our log cabin, and I've got your answers. Let's do it. Alright, so the first question we've got is from Roderick, and I'll put that up over here. And Roderick is asking how much the boiler costs and how much did it cost to get it installed. The boiler itself cost me $16,000. It was $15,995. And that was with the $1,000 discount that Central Boiler has running right now this fall. And we're in the fall of 2024 for future purposes if you watch this, in the future. But that's what the stove cost altogether, was $16,000. So now you've got to add all the other parts that go onto this stove. One of the most expensive parts besides the stove is the thermopex that goes underground, that ties into my basement, that goes into the utilities that provides heat to the house, from the stove. That thermopex was $18 a foot. I could have probably bought it cheaper, but it comes in a huge roll and you have to buy it a whole roll at a time, but that's what the dealer charged me. So I think he made $3 a foot on me, which is okay. I mean, that's the name of the game when you sell things and make money and feed your family. But I had to run 85 feet of thermopex, and that cost me $1,500. So then on top of that, you've got all the other pecs, all the little fittings. He has a very itemized, detailed list of everything that he did here. The delivery of the furnace from his house, he charged $200. So then we also had the plate exchanger that does my hot water. I have a heat exchanger out here in the garage here that we have set up thermostatically. There's the thermostat. And then it goes over to the heat exchanger here. And this thing will pump out some heat. I could set this thing to 70 degrees, and the only real heat loss I have here are these two aluminum doors, which eventually I'm going to replace them with some decent, insulated doors. It's not a necessity right now, though. We're also doing 2 bathrooms. Back to the topic, though. There's this heat exchanger, the plate exchanger for my hot water, and the heat exchanger that is inside of the plenum on top of my HVAC system. So if you add everything up for parts, including the boiler, it was $20,000. $20,500. Of course, I got to pay tax. It was $1,200. The labor charge for him installing everything for me was $2,300. So with everything included, it was $24,800 to install the boiler and all the lines and everything and the different services I wanted to have hooked up to it. All right, so Peter and 902, you guys kind of asked a similar question, so I'm going to take care of you guys both at the same time. They're also right here and right here. But Peter asks, how do I prevent it from freezing? And does my existing HVAC or heating system assist? And 902 asks if my system's treated with glycol or if I have to keep the fire burning all winter to prevent it from freezing. So yes, Peter, my existing HVAC system does work in unison with this boiler. So the water is consistently running on a circulation pump coming from the boiler into the house at all times. I will shut that off in the summertime, in the off season that we're not burning, but for the most part, that thing's gonna be running nonstop. So it sends water into the house. The water goes through a heat exchanger on my HVAC system, on top of the HVAC system, and there's also an aquastat hooked up on the line that's coming out of the heat exchanger there. So the aquastat talks to my thermostat and says, when the house calls for heat, the thermostat will say, hey, aquastat, are you warm enough to provide heat for the demand that's coming up? The aquastat will say yes if the boiler's going, and it'll kick just the fan on to my HVAC system. It won't turn on my heat pump or the electric heat. It won't turn that on. It'll just turn the fan on to distribute heat throughout my home through the vents. If the aquastat tells the thermostat, hey, the water's not warm enough, the HVAC will turn on the heat pump, or if it's below 35 degrees, it'll turn on the electric heating coils within my furnace, my HVAC system's furnace, and that will provide heat that way. But as long as the pumps are circulating water from the boiler to the house, if I don't have a fire going out there, as long as the heat is on in my house and I've got it set to something, the heat that's coming off of my HVAC will heat the water up that's going around in the radiator or heat exchanger that is inside of the ductwork, and that will prevent the boiler from freezing. But yes, to answer that question, my existing unit does work with it. There's 3 different heating options: the electric heat, the heat pump, and then the water from the boiler. And then 902, there is no glycol in my system. There's a rust inhibitor called Moly Armor that Central Boiler suggests adding, and I got to test my water, biannually, and then I have to send them an annual water sample, and it's pretty much just to ensure that the Stihl water jacket has the right pH level of water circulating in there. That way it doesn't rust out prematurely. You can run these systems on a closed loop, like if I were to do like a heated driveway, and I might consider that later on in life when I pour, the whole driveway in concrete. But if you watch Trees to Firewood, Matt out there, he did a closed loop 100% glycol for his driveway for an ice melt system. Super cool, pretty cool, intricate stuff. He's thought his boiler way out more than what I did. But go check that out if you're interested in how he does his system. I've learned a lot from watching Matt. It's good stuff. It's good content. But yeah, no glycol in my system. It's just the Moly Armor that's a rust inhibitor. And water, 330 gallons of water, just on constant circulation to and from my house and the boiler. So the next question, we'll put this one over here, is from Firewood at Home. And he asks if I am set up with a backup power generator here. No, unfortunately we are not. So if this system goes down, if I lose power here, I'm not gonna have heat. But I wouldn't have heat anyway unless I was just burning in the fireplace, which I still do have in the house, so we could throw some wood in the insert if need be. But the water in this thing, even at like, I wanna say 30-degree days, it's set at 185 degrees, and there's 330 gallons in there. It's gonna take at least 3 days, I think, for that water to cool down to where it would get itself below freezing. So if that were the case and that were to happen, I would just put a small fire in this thing, maybe hook a generator up to this just to get the pumps moving a little bit, just to circulate it. But in all reality, I don't think I'll have any issues with that. Let's knock on some wood so I don't jinx myself. But yeah, we do have plans to put a propane and like a multi-fuel backup generator here soon. It's on the list of things to do, man. The list is endless. It never stops when you own a home. So the next question comes from Travis Does Firewood, right here. Travis is asking if I'll ever put a building over this pad. Yes, 100%. That is the plan. When we poured this, there's footings on here. They're 18 inches wide, and they go 3 feet down with rebar. And then I poured a 6-inch thick slab here with wire mesh and rebar coming out of my footings up into this. This thing's built like a tank. I mean, I could drive tractor trailers on this and it's gonna be great. And we poured the footers because the whole freeze thaw thing, when I do put the building here, that way it doesn't heave and hoe and all that good stuff. I haven't decided on what I want to put here. I mean, I have a log cabin over here, and then I've got this wood shed that doesn't match my house at all. Eventually we're gonna either change the color of this or change the color of that. But I'm not sure if a metal building, like you can see in the distance over there, will look good here, like a metal pole barn. I haven't decided yet. My thoughts were kind of to put a metal pole barn here with 2 garage doors on the front and back, and then that way I could also put a vent on that back door, and then in the summertime I could open up and let it breathe if I were to put, semi-seasoned wood in here. But I don't know if that metal building would look good with my home, so I might try to do something with maybe like a faux finish that's similar to the logs here. I mean, this is all ponderosa pine. These are actually logs. This isn't faux. Like, those are 12-inch wide logs and, multi-dimensions. The world is mine. I've got probably 2 years to think about what I want to put over this pad. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions, or if you're an engineer and you want to draw something up that you think I might like, send it to logcabinfirewood83@gmail.com. I'd love to entertain people's ideas of what you think I could do here. Who knows? Maybe we'll use your idea. While I'm out here, it's a 21-degree day, and just happened to catch this on a cycle. And the water just moved up a degree, but we're running at 97% efficiency. This thing normally hits 100% within its cycle every time. doesn't stay at 100% all the time, and I don't know, if I'm above 90, I'm really happy with this thing. It's hard to get 100% like for extended periods of time, and I did load this thing up pretty heavily at 4 a.m. this morning because it was going to be in the 20s all day, so that might have something to do with it too. I might have overloaded it. So going back to the whole price of this thing, there's also a $200 tax credit that you can apply to your taxes at the end of the year for installing a high efficiency certified EPA stove on your property, which is really cool. I mean, and all this really means is if you make $100,000 a year, you can lower your tax liability to $98,000 a year and only be taxed on 98 instead of 100. Just using those numbers as a reference because 100 is easy to take 2,000 off of, so 100 minus 2,000 is 98. 100,000 is 98,000. Tom's Firewood asks, can I put a camera inside of the boiler so that we can see what's going on? No. No. You're not going to burn up my DJI camera in the boiler. If you want to buy one, we can burn it up, for science. Let me know. So the next question we have is from Al from Club Dora, another good YouTube channel. Go check him out. So Al asks, why would anybody want to burn green wood and seasoned wood in this? Because I had mentioned that in the video that you can burn both, but it prefers seasoned wood. So say you move into a property and you just install one of these on your property and you cut a bunch of trees down this year and they're not seasoned, but you want to utilize your $20-some thousand investment this year to heat your home. So you could go out and you could buy a cord or two of seasoned good wood, and then you could save your seasoned good wood by getting the fire started and your coal bed established, and then throw some green pieces on top. A lot of people do this in their house too. They'll save green pieces to throw on top of their fire. That way they've got all night long burning wood, all night long hardwood. If you haven't seen that short, you should go check it out. It's pretty funny. I stole it from Lily's Farm and Firewood, but I have his approval. But yeah, that's kind of why Central Boiler suggests, they even have a whole loading diagram in the manual about, the percentage of your seasoned wood to green wood ratio that you can use. And it kind of talks about its efficiency rating too. You could go check that information out at centralboiler.com. I mean, all that stuff's online if you were interested in seeing, how they have done the math on the efficiency of green versus seasoned or a good mix. But I figured this would be an easy, fun way to answer some of your questions. Hopefully you guys like this stuff and I answered everything. If I didn't answer thoroughly enough, ask again and tell me to explain better. I figured while I'm out here, I'll go see if anybody bought some wood. Oh, it looks like they bought 3 bags. Let's see if they actually paid me. If you guys have any other questions about the outdoor wood boiler, make sure you let me know in the comments. Here we go. Here we go. We got a nice fresh $20 bill. If you guys have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments. If you've got like big long questions, shoot me an email. We'll get this stand loaded back up and I'm gonna get back inside. It's a little chilly just to be out here in a long sleeve and a flannel. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Take care of each other. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.